We're going to learn a little bit how they operate on the air propulsion system. Stories from witnesses are in your CD. Now, within the 2 hours, we may not be able to cover it all, but at least you're going to have the CD to take home and to read, and to see and discover for yourself. A lot of different types of species. Sergeant Clifford Stone said they cataloged 57 different species. I've heard that there were additional species that were found afterwards. So we're going to see the different, what they look like, where they're from, who they are, why they're here, and in my personal experience. Okay. Ancient biblical scrolls. There's so many ancient scrolls. Yes, they're not all in the Bible. There are some scrolls, like the Book of Enoch, and many of the scrolls that were discovered at the Dead Sea Scrolls that were not canonized. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're to be disregarded. It means that this is history, and this is what has been documented, and we need to take note of it because this could affect our future. So we're going to talk about the Talmud. The Talmud is an ancient biblical, not biblical, but ancient religious works. We're going to talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls, like the Book of Enoch, and the Old and the New Testaments. And you're going to find that there are many scriptures. I'm not going to say that they specifically, this is what this means, but what I am going to say is think about the scripture. Think about if you can relate it to the Government Disclosure Project and what's going on. Just think about it. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Disclosure Project, it's a nonprofit research project working to fully disclose the facts about UFOs, extraterrestrial intelligence, and classified advanced energy and propulsion systems. Now, it says over 400 government military officials, but there are more now that have come forth. Many people who have served in the military will not allow their story to be told until after they die. So what this organization has done is recorded these people, and then later when they pass away, then they're able to show because let's face it, some of them did sign a disclosure, whatever you want to call it, right? In order not to talk about what they've experienced, and they don't want to get sued, and they don't want to lose their retirement,
or their family threatened.
Exactly, yes. So after they die, then they're able to show these videos, and there are many of them that are available. Okay, so why do the people say, well, we want to avoid the topic? Well, there's a lot of talk that says the people are going to panic. And the government doesn't want other countries to know the secrets that they discovered from the ETs, the energy, the propulsion systems. I mean, let's face it, if we could have a UFO that operates without gas, think about how the gas situation with the money, how many people would lose money. So, and what about if you were able to get cured without pharmaceuticals? Well, okay, so we could just wipe out all the pharmaceuticals. So there's a lot of money to be lost in this. Okay, so as I mentioned, follow the dollars, because this is exactly what they want. They want the money. And churches refuse to speak, many of them do, because they say, well, they don't want to give credit to Satan or the evil one or the devil. So we choose to avoid this topic. My minister is gentle. He doesn't want to scare people. Well, we need to prepare not only ourselves, but the scripture tells us that we are to expose the fruitless deeds of darkness. We're not to hide that. We're to warn others about it. So this is the reason why I have come forth and decided to teach this class. Okay, so why did they wait so long? They haven't. They've been around since the beginning of time. I mean, they've been around. You're going to see when we start pulling scripture up, and you're going to read about and see the Book of Enoch and things that are going, all this stuff's going to start to make sense. So these aliens / demons, whatever you want to call them, spiritual beings, They've been around. They like to trick people. They know what's going on in your mind. They know where you've been in the afternoon. They've been following you at the store. So what happens is you come along and you go to a fortune teller or whatever. They instill in their mind, okay, here's what this gal did at this time, and you're sitting there going, oh wow, how'd she know? Well, because they followed you. They've been following. They're all invisible, and so anyway, this is what it is. But we're going to pass over this because sometimes I think a lot of people aren't familiar with our universe, right? How large it is, how humongous, not to mention millions of universes. So I have created a list which you can go home and click on any of the videos just to get an idea of how huge our universe really is. Do we actually think that with all these planets, with how big the universe, that the only inhabited planet is Earth? I mean, that would say that God wasn't capable, it would limit God. And that's exactly what the Jews would say. That's not certain because God has no limitations. He could do whatever what he wants. But I'm going to tell you something. And we're not going to get into this topic because this is the UFO class, but there was a so-called alien, a Venusian, who came from Venus when President Eisenhower was president. And there is a story that is told, and I was ridiculed for saying this, but you could look it up on the internet.
And there's pictures.
Commander Valthor. And Commander Valthor came to Earth to discuss with the president an agenda of what he felt that the Earth should do. It was never actually expressed what he said. But one thing that we need to look for is we need to be able to distinguish what is a good spirit, what is a bad spirit. How can we distinguish it? Through the Bible, through scriptures. So when we look and we ask how to test the scriptures, the Bible tells us any spirit who claims that Yeshua is his Hebrew name, it's his name, Jesus, came in the flesh, is of God. Any spirit who does not acknowledge he did not come in the flesh is of the Antichrist. Okay, now, what are these aliens, some of them saying? They're saying, don't believe that God stuff. There is no God. We created you. Okay, that's a big red flag. Okay. So, because Scripture tells us we're to test them and to see those who acknowledge Yeshua, Jesus came in the flesh, is of God. Those who didn't are of the Antichrist. Okay, so, but let's first of all take a look. Now you might think, oh, the Bible's boring. I could never get anything out of the Bible. Actually, we can. The Bible revolves around space. It's all about space. And how do we know it's about space? Because Paul talked about the three heavens. But where are the three heavens? Number one, the first heaven is the atmosphere. It's the immediate sky where the birds fly around and the eagles of heaven, and it's our atmosphere. The second is outer space. It's beyond the atmosphere. Deuteronomy gives that illustration, Jeremiah, Matthew 24. Okay, so the third heaven is where God and the holy angels and the creatures and the spirits of just men dwell. And it is so far beyond that no one can reach. Can you see the comparison of space? Okay, so let's think about everything happened from space. We're talking about when Yeshua, Jesus, ascended. He ascended into where? The clouds. It's space. He went into the air. So there's a lot going on in space that we don't recognize. And so this is an example of our first heaven, and this is what the Bible tells us. The first heaven being where the clouds are, where the birds fly. The second heaven being outer space where our planets are, and the third heaven is so far we can't reach it because that's heaven, that's where God dwells. Okay, so this is actually in the Bible. And I don't think people recognize, I don't think they draw a comparison, because being on earth, we can't see beyond the clouds. We think that it makes us so small. But let me tell you something. When the class is done, you're going to feel real small. Compare to how huge the universe is. Picture this. Picture God in his hand, and you're like a little golf ball. This is the earth. That's how big he is. He's, like Trump would say, huge. I don't mean to do that. I don't mean it, but he's huge. And okay, now astronauts saw UFOs. We've got a lot of the astronauts. Buzz Aldrin talks about he talks about the UFOs that were, they used to give a little, it was a keyword, Santa Claus. So whenever they saw a UFO,
It would be Santa Claus.
exactly. So, and he came back and he goes, oh, please, don't think there aren't. They are up there. They are definitely up there. Not only Buzz Aldrin, but we're talking about Gordon Cooper. He's, notorious. We're talking about them. He says, no, don't let anybody tell you they don't exist, because they really do exist. Edgar Mitchell, just to name a few. But yeah, they all came back and said they do exist. Okay, so let's take a little look, and let's look to see what the Bible's actually saying. Okay, so here we have Baal. Beelzebub. Baal was Lord of War of the where? Sky. He's used to being in the sky. Lord of War in sky. That's what Baal means. Beelzebub. Lord of those who fly or flit. So we're flitting back and forth. Spacecrafts are going back and forth at speeds that are beyond, making 90-degree turns at these tremendous speeds that they can't figure out how they're doing. So, Lord of those who fly or flit. Zebub is a Hebrew verb which means to flit from place to place. Baal is identified as Satan by Jesus himself in Matthew 10, Mark 3, Luke 11:15. The Antichrist will honor Satan, called Baal, Lord of fortresses, Lord of high places, Lord of those who quickly fly in the high places, Prince of the power of the air, and obviously the Prince of the power behind flying craft in high places like UFOs. But we don't recognize and correlate that scripture to UFOs. And we could see there's a lot of different videos for you to view again with the news and the secret UFO encounters, so on and so forth. Okay, so we see that sightings are becoming a daily routine, not just local, but in different parts of the world. That MUFON recognizes them and is able to record all these different. Now, a lot of them, grant you, a lot of them is just malarkey. People make them up. They make up all kinds of things. But if one of them out of the millions that have been recognized and have come forth, if one of them is truth, which the government disclosure has many reputable people who have good positions saying what they saw and acknowledging aliens do exist and they even work for the government, then we've got something. So there's an increase in UFO disclosure watchers. There's a link for you to click on so you could watch the UFOs. You can even, through Google Alerts, put in the word UFO or alien, and each time someone creates a page about them, then of course you would be able to get notified by Google. That's called Google Alerts. All right, so let's look at the next page here. Let's look at some of the shapes that people have witnessed. We're talking about the crafts that look like bells and boxes and cigar-shaped vessels and conical hats and cross-shaped diamonds, dome saucers, egg-shaped. So many different shapes. And if you notice, and I'm going to tell you, I learned this at Moody. They do believe in UFOs. If you've noticed, back in 1957, the craft was more mechanical. As the years increased, and we see the crafts being more, help me out with the word, more elaborate, more
Yeah, they're able to